Okay, so what's today? June 14th, 2020. I'm gonna just go in here and do like a random rant because on my Facebook I have all these guys that seem to be combative with me and they're against things that I'm doing because some of them don't know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna share my opinion. All right, so of course, I'm against the rioting. I do not support rioting. I do support protests if you do wish to protest, but I believe ever since this George Floyd murder, I think our black people are going about it the wrong way. I believe that there's another way to go about it. First, I feel like you shouldn't damage and destroy your own community. One, if your community has already been destroyed, such as crime, violence, black on black crime, guns, drugs, prostitution. If you already have those problems in your community and you want to be heard, destroying your own community is not going to change it. The way I put it is that I've been in a black community, predominantly black community, for birth all the way up to 26, and then 19 years outside of a predominantly black community. And the way outsiders think and view a black community is they expect the things that's being done now. That's no surprise to anyone outside of the black community. So when I talk to people on my Facebook, I'm up here trying to give them an objective opinion so they can see other people's point of views. Then I get attacked, call me a coon or whatever. That part don't bother me because I already know what's going to happen. I do not think this riot is going to change police brutality. When I know people that I've been going back and forth with from my hometown, such as Lang City, New Jersey, I individual conversations with one-on-ones with them. They know there's a lot of problems that's in my hometown community that need to be fixed before other outsiders will view the black community. Some of them see and hear my objective, but a lot of them make all these excuses, such as we'll talk about politics, which is a controversial topic. Politics. Well, of course, we talk about Democrats. I used to vote Democrat all the way up until I learned a lot about Democrats. So I don't even have a party. But when I try to bring up some things, when I have a news feed, a timeline filled with Trump this, or I hate Candace Owens this, and all this and all these other opinions on why people on my Facebook page dislike. Um, I'll name the three that I used to see the most, which is Trump is being blamed for everything, and then Candace Owens. Someone told me to look her up, and of course, it's Kanye. I like Kanye, and as I got to view Candace Owens' views and her support and what she support, I do like Candace Owens. Trump, I don't dislike Trump because I used to work for Trump. I don't. A lot of things that people on my page dislike about him, I think they just dislike him because they're jumping on a bandwagon. They never look to see what he did. If you don't like someone, I don't think you're going to research and see what they're all about. I think when you jump on a bandwagon of something and you take someone's opinion and you go along with another person's opinion, such as anyone on Facebook or me, I think you just go with the flow. And if you're told to vote blue, then you're just going to vote blue regardless. I was ignorant to know to do the same thing until I had to do a research paper on who I was going to select for president, Trump uh, or Hillary. But even then, I didn't know all the background of Hillary. Even though I did a research paper, but I didn't know her personal views. I didn't know that she admired Margaret Sanger, which was Margaret Sanger was a member of the KKK, and her whole mission was to decrease the black population, which she did. She did receive money like someone like George Soros, and she used that money to open up a clinic in Harlem, and she used black people of middle class to open up this clinic and fully staff a black clinic of middle staff blacks, and took advantage of the poor blacks to get either abortions to decrease the population. And the other thing was your eugenics law. That's another one that forced poor blacks to get sterilization, especially in North Carolina. It was heavily enforced, and they were forced to get sterilized when they're poor and on Medicare, and they was forced to get it even if they had too many kids or if they had a mentally challenged child. They would even get everyone sterilized. So, and that was still part of decreasing the Black population. There's a lot of things in our history and the Black culture that we don't know about our history because we weren't taught in public schools. So now when I'm talking to other people that learn these things outside of any public school or Black college, which some of these things weren't even taught in a Black college, I share this information and people seem to be on attack like they don't believe it. And I'll take examples when I say, well, the Black community needs to fix the problems in the community first before you can speak to, I guess, white America. So what I mean by that is when you look at outsiders who do not live the life or haven't experienced the life of a Black person in the projects or the hood, they're not going to understand your point of view. The only thing they're going to see and project is what they see on TV. They do not go look around for racism. They don't look around to see how many people get killed, how many Black people or Black men get killed by white cops, racist cops, or bad cops. So statistically, all races get killed by cops, whether they're good cops, racist cops, bad cops. And if we take the George Floyd, one of them was Black, one was Asian, and two were white. But the stereotype of white cops and news media, people get, caught up in the news media, which they do exaggerate and they create race wars. There's a lot of things that people need to take in perspective instead of using your personal opinion or how you feel. Yes, George Floyd, he shouldn't have died the way he did. Some people bash Candace Owens because she said he doesn't look like she's not going to support him because he's not a hero and she used his criminal past. But if you take Martin Luther King would say, don't judge me by the color of my skin, judge me by my character. So we do tend to judge people by either character or color of the skin, and some do both. But at the end of the day, when someone get murdered by a police officer, everyone is going to want to know why they got murdered. Now, when you look at the outsiders, because I know a lot of Black people that I see on my page, they're like, well, it doesn't matter about someone's past. Well, yes, your past do matter. Your past matters when you apply for a job application. Your past matters when you get murdered by a police officer. It matters. It matters to all of us because we want to know who you are and what you was before you left this earth. And a lot of Black people from my community and other communities are like, oh, it shouldn't matter. Well, yes, it does. And then when there's disrespect between the race of just in Black people, we separate ourselves with social classism because then we got Black people calling other Black people coons and Black people ignorantly calling other people Uncle Tom when Uncle Tom is not even a negative, but ignorant Black people seem to take it as that's supposed to be the Sambo. So there's a lack of education, a lack of viewpoints. But what I try to tell the people that I grew up with is that you have to look at basically white America. White America is going to look at it at an individual who gets murdered by a cop, whether they're naive, ignorant, or racist. We don't have enough color people in the justice system. We don't have enough color people in the police department. We don't have enough color people in a committee union of the police department. We don't have enough color in anything. So you're going to need other people to help support a cause, whether it's police brutality or racism. You're going to need other races to help support the cause. But I don't believe that a Black community where it's already condemned, already a negative, and people don't see or want or have no desire to even care whether you damage your own community, is not going to get a message across to, I say, white America, because they're not going to care. You're damaging your own property. You're increasing your taxes. You're increasing every penny. Once those things have to be rebuilt, that's if they even rebuild it. The first thing I always say, in the last 3 men I talked to yesterday, 3 different men from Georgia, Florida, and New York, all Black men. When we look at this video of Rashad Brooks from Atlanta, and even though he have violated several crimes, I noticed that Black men tend to still flip the script on, well, if it was a white man, it wouldn't happen. No, white men and white women have gotten murdered by cops unarmed. I have at least 10 videos that I can play and show where white people have got murdered by cops and they were unarmed. I had one video that happened where I'm at now, a couple years back. He had to crawl, and a SWAT team officer shot him while he was crawling, and he shot him and killed him. He didn't have nothing. He got a 911 calls. They're in the hotel and they got a report that someone was swinging a gun outside of the hotel window. And they drew these two people out. One was a female and one was a guy. And he was begging, please don't shoot me. He was drunk. He was crawling. And that SWAT team officer, he shot him while he was crawling and listened to his command. There's another woman. She was driving. A state trooper had punched her in the face several times in the car. There was a mentally challenged white Caucasian who, I guess he was off his medication. He had schizophrenia, and I forgot why the 911 was called, but they did something to him just like a George Floyd. They handcuffed him. They laid him on his stomach. He was laying in grass. He was saying, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. And he just stopped breathing. They thought he was sleeping. And all three white officers was laughing and teasing him and mocking him. And when the ambulance came, they like, he's dead. They suffocate him just like George Floyd, but they just didn't have a knee in the neck. They had him on his stomach and he couldn't breathe through the grass. So there's those things. Those stories don't make headliners because it's white on white and it's not a race war. And that's the other thing where Black people need to pay attention to. You need to pay attention to, okay, some of this media like increase, exaggerate. Nobody don't buy newspapers no more. So they got to make their ratings. They have to make money another way. They'll draw cliffhangers and draw you in that way. I'm not saying everything they say is true, but they do exaggerate. They do lie. They do video mergings and edits, and they do exaggerate on the stories even when they interview. So that's why I tell my friends to look at government sites, to look at the politicians' direct page and government sites, and not look at news media with interviews. Look at televised like C-SPAN and things like that, where you can see them being recorded while they talking in the courtroom, such as Candace Owens when she was confronting white supremacists. When I looked at all the things that I saw Candace Owens arguing, and she's on C-SPAN a lot, I liked a lot of her views. I liked a lot of things that she argued about. And I didn't see how Black people from my hometown or anyone hated her, because she's confronting white supremacists and she's 31 years old, Black, smart, intelligent woman. I don't see how anyone in the Black race will condemn her. Why? Because she support Trump. Okay, so she support Trump. So there's a lot of Black people that would support Trump. And then I had to educate, when I learned, I had to educate the people on my page to let them know that majority of all the Blacks in the South, they were Republicans. And so when I say, well, the Democrat Party was created by KKK, then they're like, no, that was in the 1800s. It switched. No, that never switched. The race switched. So just like when Hillary go to Haiti and tell Haiti, well, you have to vote Democrat because we're the only ones that care for you or look out for you. That's the same thing they did in the South when they needed the people that needed to work. They say, okay, in order for you to work for me, you have to be Democrat. And that's when the party starts, the race started switching over to Democrat, the Blacks switched over to Democrat. It wasn't because the KKK left the Democrat Party. They never left the Democrat Party. Biden is not supportive of Black people. Hillary is not supportive of Black people. She had idolized Margaret Sanger. Anyone who idolized Margaret Sanger and her whole mission was to decrease the Black population, and she's a member of the KKK, why would Hillary Clinton idolize her? There's a lot of things there that the Black people that I grew up with, they don't even educate themselves on some of the history and some of the things that our politicians in the Democrat Party. And look at Nancy Pelosi and them wearing the scarves. Those scarves mean slave owners. That doesn't mean like I'm down and I'm for Black people. The scarf that they wore, that means slave owner. That wasn't to support and say I love Black people. That people got it all wrong. And I know there's a lot of things we don't know about history. And so that's when I started posting the little things in our culture that I'm learning and sharing on the Facebook. And then I even created a page called What America Doesn't Teach Us. And so that way we can all share things of leaders and Black people and created things that we wasn't taught, like um, George Grant, who graduated, the second Black man who graduated from Harvard University in dentistry, and he also created a golf team, which most of the Black people in my community would think golf is a white person sport. But Black people did play the sport back then too, in the 1800s. And just like Black people that I've been talking to on my Facebook page, they're kind of confused because they didn't understand how the Blacks in the South, they wasn't able to vote. Well, that's because the owners was brainwashing them. But Black people or Black men were allowed to vote on February 3rd, 1870, when the 15th Amendment passed. But a lot of the Blacks lived in the South, and you still had those Jim Crow laws, and you had your owners, your slave owners, and they brainwashed them and put fear in them. And that's why it took years later and decades later for Blacks in the South to vote. It's a lot of things that's missing in the Black history that a lot of us wasn't taught in public school all the way up to college and outside. It's basically you have to teach yourself and research yourself and go to reliable websites to find the information, or even go through Black authors to read information about Black culture. Like, I thought a European country was Caucasian, but no, it wasn't all Caucasian, because if you read the book, The Golden Age of the Moor, Moor, you will know that the Moors ruled Europe for 700 years. They're the ones who introduced soap to them. Because they never bathed. At one time, the Moors weren't accepted in Europe, but when the plague kept continuously happening, they accepted the Moors to come to Europe, and that's how the Moors ruled Europe for 700 years. They introduced them to soap because the Europeans, they wasn't bathing. They wore the same clothes every day, 7 days a week. And once the Moors introduced them to soap and clothes and everything you see in Games of Thrones, all those clothes, that was created by the Moors, which were Black people. So the Black people ruled Europe for 700 years. And then there was another war, and that's when they no longer ruled. But there's a lot of things we need to learn about history, so that way we know, like, hey, this wasn't something that Caucasians ruled. Wasn't, our history was stolen and hidden from us or withheld. And of course, I can understand why these things weren't taught in public school, because it will cause a disruption. If you knew about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where it was targeting Black colleges in the South, I'll exchange you for free healthcare if you join in this case study, which a case study is normally like 3 to 6 months, maybe no more than a year. But this case study lasted for over 40 years. And they gave every Black person that went to a Black college where they was doing this case study in exchange for free healthcare insurance, they was giving them syphilis. So that was another thing that I can understand why a Black college probably wouldn't teach that, because they were part of the case study and they didn't care. They just looked the other way because they were getting money, and they didn't care how it would harm Black men and women by giving someone syphilis. The other thing is, there's a lot of things in our culture that we don't know about. And the other thing I didn't like on my page where people were disrespecting was Jack Johnson, the first Black heavyweight champion in boxing. And a lot of people that don't like Trump, they disrespected the fact that they ignore the fact of Jack Johnson. I'm on a live, and you're in my live. They ignore the fact of Jack Johnson and his history and what happened to him during the time he was a boxer, during the time where he got married and put to jail because he was in a relationship and married to a white woman. You're still in my life. You're still in my life. And also, I had some disrespectful Black men that was saying, well, I don't care. That was F the part, and that was 50 years ago. Or even one Black woman, doesn't matter. It was 100 years ago, or that was 75 years ago. So you're disrespecting that the first Black man, a heavyweight champion, didn't receive the legacy and the credit that he deserved because of racism and during the time he was living, and how he fought every single day against a white boxer, and they cheated. They put things in the white man's pads. They drugged his water to the point where he couldn't even trust the water he was drinking unless it was sealed. So every day he fought, and then he even went 150 rounds in boxing. Rounds is 12 in boxing. And this is what they did to Jack uh, Johnson, which I didn't even know about this. And then they created a movie, King Kong, which was based on him being the eighth desiring a white woman. They used to live in the towers in New York, and they created that movie based on him, which was kind of crazy. So Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson and all the other boxers, they wish, well, Muhammad Ali wished that Jack Johnson get pardoned before, that was one of his wishes before he died. But then when people say, well, Trump is racist, this is that. So when I share something, then like, oh, that's a brownie point. Just for the black people. I'm like, first of all, that was 2 years ago. That wasn't today, like close to election time. Every time I throw a fact at someone that's black or a black man or black woman, you want to make it a racial thing. It's not like you make everything a racial thing. And this is why the police brutality will not stop, because until the black people in the black community fix the problems in the black community, there will still be police brutality. It's still going to be good cops, bad cops, and racist cops. And there's nothing that black people writing will be able to do about it. Because again, when I share things, how the outsiders view the black community, they're not going to care. You need to show a different type of leader that is a black man with no criminal record. He's a productive member of society. And okay, we see the cops killed him. If they see more of those type of stories, then that's when you'll probably get more people from the outside to help and want to support. But if they keep seeing criminals are the ones who being supported for riots, and you want justice, other outsiders are going to keep saying, well, what about protesting that black on black crime? I said this several times, every single day since this Floyd protests and rioting began. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to see news feeds on my timeline where there are outsiders, such as people who aren't black, even Hispanic races, other races that would say, well, why they don't protest when there's black on black crime? When I bring up black on black crime, people from my hometown or other blacks or black men get upset. No, this is different. No, it's not different. You can't ask white America to say, hey, I'm tired of racist or bad cops killing black men, and you don't fix the problem in the black community. None of the black men don't want to hear that because they think it's different. No, it's not different. Because if you reduce the crime rate in the black community, that will keep less white police officers or bad cops in your community. If you have less crime, you have less policing. If you teach your children, instead of teaching the children to do TikTok dances and pick up on rap lyrics, give them an author of a black book. Teach the kid to be something that we need in the justice system. We don't have a lot of colored people in the justice system. The justice system is made up of white people. Unfortunately, the court system is mostly other races of judges. The justice system is created by white people, white supremacists. We're fighting against that. They're the ones who are organized throughout this whole entire country. And how are you going to fight that? You're going to fight the justice system, which, well, we are outnumbered. You're going to fight white supremacists. They're organized throughout the whole entire country. You're going to think a riot is going to change that? No, it's not going to change that at all. It won't. The way you have to go, you need other races to help support and show them that racists or bad cops are killing good black people, whether it's a good woman or a good man. You got to show them that, just like a Danye Jones. Danye Jones was murdered or lynched in St. Louis. It was a little short story on him on BET. It happened in October 2018. A lot of people didn't get to know that story because a lot of people was focused on Kanye and Trump. If a lot of people wasn't focused on Kanye and Trump in the White House, they would have known about Diane Jones, which is his mother was the activist for the Ferguson case with Mike Brown. So there's been murders of Ferguson activists getting murdered. One was murdered on the day of the verdict, and there's been some that got murdered in Louisiana in a burnt car with a bullet in the head. If you look up Ferguson activist that has been murdered, you will see there's been little small stories on those, but Black communities don't really focus on that because you're not paying attention unless it hits the news. It has to be a big headliner for Black people to say it's not enough. I mean, enough is enough. No, enough is enough anytime anyone get killed. Enough is enough when your next door neighbor murdered someone, or your child has murdered someone, or a best friend has murdered someone. Black on Black crime needs to be reduced for America to want to feel sorry for a George Floyd or anyone. You gotta be like, I always have to keep it real on my page, and I'll keep it real wherever I'm going to be posting. You can't ignore those facts. I talk to Black men, they seem so combative. You're combative every time. But at the end of the day, I told these 3 Black men that I've been talking to over the past week, I told them the police brutality is not going to stop. I told them that white cops or bad cops or whatever kind of cops is still going to kill Black people. It's not going to change. I said this riot's not going to change. One of them said, "Oh, George Floyd's daughter said her dad's going to change the world," and I said, "No, it's not. All it's going to do is make them even more mad." I said, all they're doing is waiting for it to calm down, and it's going to be more police brutality. It's probably going to get even more aggressive, but it's already happening now, because now we got the Rashard Brooks, rest in peace. I did look at the 6+ minute video. Even when I looked at the short video, I see him scuffling with the cops. And then I showed that to the same 3 guys last night. They still, 2 of them, they just like, well, that's not right. No, it's not right to get killed by a police officer, but you have to look at the facts. You can't protest and you want to fight for justice for bad policing, but you also can't commit crimes. We have laws for a reason. The laws we are supposed to follow the laws. We know wrong from right. 1, we know we're not supposed to hit a police officer. 2, we know we're not supposed to carry illegal firearms without having a license to carry them. We know we're not supposed to have illegal drugs. We know we're not supposed to kill people. We know those things we're not supposed to do. We know we're not supposed to be drinking and driving. We know we're not supposed to be going to the streets fighting. We're not supposed to go in the streets looting. We're not supposed to go in the streets doing criminal shit. We created laws for a reason. Laws are there. If we didn't have these laws, then people can do and kill whoever they want. But when I speak to this what I call the ignorant ones, with the low in the hood, the project, or whatever you want to call it, and I'm from a hood or a project city or predominantly Black community. But when I'm trying to speak logically to these people, a few of them, they come back with an excuse. You can't come back and excuse. No, we can't. Let's ignore the Black and Black. Well, you can't go to the other races and say, "Hey, I want you to stop killing our Black men and women," and you don't protest when there's Black on Black crime. I have plenty of friends that got murdered. Plenty. Like I said, I can count over 50 since I've been there, and they still killing each other from my hometown. There's 15-year-old girls, 18-year-old girls, they're getting murdered now. First, it was just men. Now women, young girls is getting murdered by boys. So it's worse now. It's worse than it was when I was living there. And they're getting killed in daylight in mom and pop stores. It's like the younger generation, they don't even care no more. Let's take the David Dawn case in St. Louis, who was a retired veteran for 38 years. He used to be a police officer, city chief of police, and he was a security guard at this pawn shop. He gets killed by a 24-year-old over a TV. Like, these little young kids, they don't care anymore. They don't care about life because they weren't taught to be respectful. They have an absent parent in the household, most of them. Most in the Black community, most of us have an absent parent. And I think if the father figure was in their life, it would reduce some of this crime. But we have to fix those problems first before we can say, hey, white America, we're tired of you killing us. Well, white America going to look at, well, who's this person? Why they get arrested by cops? Okay, they got a criminal record. All right. They're not going to care. You may think they care. They're not going to care. I'm telling you, they're not going to care because he has a criminal record. And most of these people don't have criminal records. Most of them don't have any encounters with the law. Most of them are going to say, well, he should be following the law. If he followed the law, he wouldn't be dead. And that's how a lot of the outsiders are going to look at this whole situation. They're not going to look at it from a Black person's point of view. They're not going to, because they're going to think, some of them are going to still think there's no racism. Yep, it's going to be naive to think that way. It may be ignorant from to think that way. But if they live in a community like I'm living in right now and where I live, they're not going to think there's no racism. That's the honest God truth. They will not think there's racism exists. They won't. But they sure won't be stepping in a project. They will be very fearful to go in a project because when they see what they see on news media, they're going to look at Black men as dangerous, evil, thieves, can't trust, violent, and murderers. That's how the media put it out there for the outsiders to view. What we need to do is let society, outsiders, look at all Black people aren't the same. Now, reality, we know there's bad people in every damn race. Black people know that. At the same time, Black people are racist too, because you tear down each other. We tear down each other. We call each other coons because we're on different viewpoints. You can't tear down the Black race when you're trying to fight against white supremacists, racist cops, or bad cops. But when we are not on the same page, we don't have the same point of view. You look at the other ones like, okay, they're not Black. So you're basically saying that Black people need to be ignorant, rude, couth, and coons, because that's what I've been called, a coon. So when a Black person call another Black person a coon, that's ignorant. That is very ignorant. Now, I know I'm not a coon, but what disgusts me is when someone who has a lower education than me calls me a coon. That's disrespectful. I look at that as an insult. I'm like, how can this ignorant mother freaker call me a coon when you have a lower education than me? And I don't even live in that community no more. I don't even live in that community anymore. But you're calling me a coon? You can't call other Black people coons because they're trying to show you that this is not the right way to go. But no, you don't hear that. Then your parents are very disrespectful. You don't teach your children how to be respectful to older people that's older than them. And this is why the police brutality happens, because no one doesn't respect the law. No one's not respecting cops. You up here saying, oh no, it's not fair. Look, you can't compare yourself to a white person because you don't live the life of a white person. Live like a Black person. So you have to do things different. So if a white person jump off the roof, you're going to jump off the roof with them? No, their lifestyle is going to be totally different than yours. Both of you could commit the same crime. Their crime is going to be a lesser charge than yours. It's going to be a lesser charge. So stop comparing yourself to the white race. Yeah, you want equality or you want to have civil rights? Which one you want? Do you want to be judged by the color of your skin or by character? If you want people to judge you by the character, then show character. But character means if you happen to have an encounter with a police officer, you don't know what kind of cop you're going to come across. You don't know if they had a bad day. You don't know if they had a life-threatening experience prior. You don't know. I have police officers in my family, and I have police officers as friends, and that's from my hometown. So you don't know what these police officers encounter. For you to say, "Oh, all cops are racist," well, what about the two that were black and Asian? So they're racist too. So the black ones are racist. I've seen a lot of cops in Atlanta that are black that was using unnecessary force or shooting. Or I've seen black cops in these videos that they kill white people, but they didn't show a big headliner. Why? Because it was two black officers that shot up 14 rounds into a car with a white father and a 6-year-old autism boy. And the 6-year-old autism boy died. The father survived. But two black cops did that. Two black cops did that. And they didn't get charged either. So if you're going to if you want other people to see things from your perspective, you need to be open-minded. You need to be objective, because now you're going to have to put yourself in these people's shoes so they can put themselves in your shoes. Everybody got to work together. You can't be against each other. Blacks shouldn't be fighting with each other, and blacks, low educated, uneducated ones, you shouldn't be talking down and calling other people coon because they're trying to put some common sense into your brain. But like I told the 3 dudes yesterday, I said, I told you this was going to stop, regardless of the Floyd. Every riot that happened didn't change police brutality, and it's not going to change it now. We don't have rich black people in our race like a George Soros to stop police brutality. So we're going to need all people that feel the same as we do if someone like a George Floyd get killed that was injustice. But at the same time, don't get mad when people aren't going to support someone with a criminal background. That's just real. That's just reality. You need to use other people. If you want to be supportive of the black race and you're going to be down for the black race, then you should be keeping yourself updated with all the current events. So that way you can know about the Danye Jones who got the lynching in 2018 in St. Louis. And you should know about John Crawford III, who got shot up in a Walmart, minding his own business, and had a white man call 911 lying and saying he was pointing a gun at people in Walmart. And that wasn't true. That guy didn't have no criminal record. He just became a father. The baby just was born. Those type of men are the ones that should be used if you decide you want to do a riot, because they didn't have no criminal backgrounds. And Danye Jones was being productive to the black community. He was basically about to go the same path as his mother and become an activist. Now that man is gone. But don't give us a man that put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach and committed other kind of crimes, and we're going to keep writing for black men who commit crimes. The other side, the outsiders, is not going to accept that. They won't. I told these 3 black men this. I told them they won't accept it. And they keep, okay, look at my timeline with the outsiders. I shared a screenshot of a time, and they were not even white. They're a different race. They was like, why the black people were protesting when the cop killed, but why don't protest when the black on black crimes? No one's not going to allow that black on black crime to slide. It's not going to slide. Regardless how the black people in the black community with the black on black crime, the outsiders is not going to allow that to disappear. They will not ignore that. I don't see how you can ignore it. Outsiders is not going to ignore that. Regardless how much you hate it, outsiders will not allow the black community to ignore it. And that is a fact. Until that is fixed, you got to reduce that. You got to teach these kids to be better, productive members of society. Stop teaching them hip hop and rap. Teach them how to read books. Teach them to want to be a doctor, a judge, a prosecutor. Get more colored people in the justice system. That's going to take a while. In the meantime, you're going to need other races to help to change these things. And the black race is not going to be the only race that can stop police brutality. It won't happen. We have black officers that's harassing black people. It ain't going to happen. So I'm going to end this. Talk to you later. Peace.